Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
The inbound, Galloway finds Rob Phinisee, who fires the three, and he hit it! Phinisee, his 20th point of the game. Indiana leads by 1. Number 2. Yes! 4 points for Jackson Davis. Here comes Jaden Ivey down the floor. Ivey drives it right, pulls up, forces a 3. No good! It banked off the rim. No good, and Indiana's won it!
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Happy Friday. I hope you're doing well, and if you're an Indiana fan, I know that you are. Indiana coming off of a gigantic win last night. We will certainly be getting to that and all of the festivities along with that. Sound from Coach Mike Woodson. We'll hear from Rob Phinisee. Alec Lasley from thehoosier.com will be joining us. We'll talk to Zach Osterman from the Indy Star. Maybe even Bob Kravitz. Who knows? Yeah, what a night at the Simon Scott Assembly Hall last night. As we talked about, I knew it was going to be the most electric atmosphere in years. You just knew that going in, and it did not disappoint. The students did not disappoint. Many of them suited up, but they were loud and proud and in attendance last night. And as you saw after the win, they were on the floor. But certainly a fun night for the students of Indiana University and the fans as they vanquish not only a foe in Purdue, but that nasty streak that had been hanging over them like a piano on their back. That's back-to-back streaks they've dumped, man. We got a lot to get to today, a lot to unpack. We'll get to that. Indiana taking on a Michigan team next. We'll talk about that as well. Also a streak on the line there. They've lost 8 straight to Michigan. Did you know that? They can kill 3 streaks in 3 successive games. They went to Nebraska, ended a road losing streak, 8 games. They've now beaten Purdue for the first time in 9 games, and now you have a Michigan team you haven't beaten in 8 games. This is what has already propelled Indiana into the national conversation. You wonder why your team hasn't been ranked. Well, they haven't been a part of the national conversation because they've been forgotten about over the last few years, rightfully so. And now they're back on the national stage doing big things. Assembly Hall used to be the place where number 4, number 1, number 2, number 3 teams came to get beaten. And that kind of went away. Well, last night it returned. Great to see that. What a fun time it was just to be out there. As I said, I was looking forward to just being there as a reporter, just for the experience. But great time, and I know that everybody is enjoying that. Man, everybody's hitting up the Jennifer says IU basketball is fun again. Force is a great win. Yeah, Rob Phinisee. Oh my goodness, are we going to talk about this man? What a perfect person. You missed the game? Yeah, I bet you did. Let's see. Rob Phinisee. Yeah, I cannot wait to talk about that dude. Everybody checking in from all over. How you guys doing? Tony and Tim. Tim Mark, people make fun of the court storm when they don't understand the history of the Purdue rivalry. There is an issue with the court storming, but not for that one. I'm like, who cares? They're students. They haven't had that fun for so long. But you do want to get to the point to where you've been there before, especially for a team that has. But we'll worry about that another day. Let them have fun. I don't care. Here's a stat. 98 straight weeks outside of the AP top 20. Maybe it won't reach 100. Well, I can promise you, they have to take care of Michigan. But if they do that, this team is ranked next week. There's no question. They've only their losses. That Syracuse loss sucks, but they lost to Wisconsin. It doesn't matter that they had a 22-point lead on them at home, at their place. Wisconsin now being battered around as a number 1 seed, a potential number 1 seed. Indiana had that team down by 22. They just beat a number 4 seed. So if you're wondering if the program is turning around, hello? Yeah, that should answer your question. Kenneth's jumping on as well. Durr was as important as it. Yeah, that was a total team game win because Trace Jackson Davis spent his night on the bench. Steve says, I know Trace Jackson didn't play much because of fouls. I think they need to realize that he didn't practice hard after Monday's game. I just don't think he looked as quick. Well, I just think he got in foul trouble. I mean, Zach Edey is a monster. Josh says it feels like an enormous weight has been lifted. Yeah, how about that too? 3 turnovers for that entire game. How in the hell can a team turn the ball over 3 times against the top 5 team in the country, and yet they turn it over 27 against no one? Funny. Tyrone jumping on. Great post-game show last night with Ted and Dean. Ted Kitchell and Dean Galloway joined us last night, so thankful for those guys as always. And thank you, Tyrone. We appreciate you, brother. What was asked of Durr last night. Mike, how are you, sir? Hey, watching from down in French Lick. Appreciate you, brother. Yeah, the guard play. How about that? The thing that has been just beaten on for this team, the guard play. Well, who showed up last night? Yeah, we'll talk about that conversation between Coach K and Rob Phinisee. Took place yesterday. They talked about that in the post game. Corey jumping on, saying even guys like Miller Kopp, who didn't score, played hella defense. Everybody played a role in that game last night. I'm telling you, that was Indiana had to be a team effort. When your All-American is not out there, and you had left what you had left against the number 4 team in the country who was intact. 0 turnovers from the point guards. Not only you have 0 turnovers from the point guards. Where's my stats? Get these things pulled up. They were your scorers, man. They were both of your leading scorers. Daggone it. I hit the wrong one. That's the women's game. But yeah, those 2 guys were just draining. 18 points for Xavier Johnson on 7 of 17 shooting, 2 of 2 at the free throw line. He only put up 4 3-pointers on the night, and he hit 2 of them, 50%. You're going to take that all damn day long. Where's my man Rob Phinisee? 20 points, second high leading scorer in the game, 8 of 13, 4 of 7 from behind the 3-point line. He only shot 1 free throw. Amazing. Played 26 minutes. Trace Jackson Davis limited to 11 minutes and 4 points. 11 minutes and 4 points. He contributed 4 points in the entire game and 1 rebound. You got 4 points and 1 rebound from your All-American, and you beat the number 4 team in the country. Geronimo, 3 points, but he played 13 minutes, played some tough defense. Galloway, 8 points, 2 of 4 shooting, 4 of 6 at the free throw line. He played 24 big moments. Joe checking in from New Albany. Hey, Michelle. X and Rob were, they were just something. Everyone, it's always the birds are chirping a little bit louder. 5 Left's on. Lots of new faces. We appreciate you guys. Oh, man, did they ever, Doug? How many bench points? Where was the bench points? 35. Okay. Indiana's bench scored 35 points. Do you know what Purdue got from their bench? I'm holding up 4 fingers for you listening on radio. 4 from their entire bench. And that includes Travion Williams, who came off the bench. What do you get? 2 points, 1 of 4 shooting. They got nothing. All of their production came from Mason Gillis, Zach Edey, who was limited to just 12 points. 12 points. Zach Edey, this 7'4" monster, was limited to 12 points with Trace Jackson Davis playing 4 minutes. Or 11 minutes, scoring 4 points. There's just no way that happens. But I wonder, here's a question. If Trace Jackson Davis does play the whole game, Ed's out in Las Vegas. Ed, how you doing, brother? How does that change the game? Luke, checking in. Haven't seen you for a minute. Would he accomplish something Archie did not in 4 years? Yes, he did. But I wonder what this game would have been like had Trace Jackson Davis been in it, because that changed the entire dynamic. Indiana had to completely rely on their guard play, and they came through. Rob Phinisee, West Lafayette native, no less. You could not have scripted anything better for this kid. Is as nice a kid as you're ever going to meet. Has not had he's not had the funnest experience in college, I can't imagine. But this last one, hopefully this last one makes up for it for him this last season. Matter of fact, let's have a clip. The reason Rob played so well is, you saw the comments before what he's talking about, Rob, that he's in his corner, and that conversation continues. And as that conversation continues, it looks like Rob Phinisee's confidence continues to soar. As, like I said last night, 20 points on 8 of 13 shooting in 26 minutes on the floor. Let's hear what Rob had to say. Coach.
Faith in myself, no matter what.
Go ahead.
I don't normally give inside scoop away, but Rob and I had a beautiful conversation hours before the ball game. And just nice to see how he stepped out and performed. It was beautiful to watch.
George. Beautiful to watch. Rob also commented on that. This conversation, it had an impact because both of them mentioned it independently of each other. And there was just, you could tell there was something different when he came in. Didn't he take a shot like 10 seconds into the game? The dude had confidence flowing out of his ears. But let's hear what Rob had to say.
I would say just having faith in myself, no matter what happens. I had to talk with Coach Woodson before shoot-around today. And he told me just, if no one else is in your corner, that he's in my corner. So, we just had a really good talk before shoot-around, and that just really boosted my spirit. And, finally, we finally beat Purdue. I was, 0-6? We just needed this win. We needed this win bad.
Now, if that doesn't tell you, the players, they know, but they don't pay exact attention. It was 0-6. It was 0-9. He didn't even know. And he's from West Lafayette. But he knew it was something. They don't keep the numbers.
I think he might be talking about him personally, 0-6.
Oh. Well, yeah, that's right. That would have been correct then. Yes, thank you. That makes sense. Hey, is it break time?
Yes, sir.
All right. Coming up next, Alec Lasley from thehoosier.com, who can speak even more intelligently about the game than I did. Would look forward to doing that. Right after this, we're brought to you by our good friends at Southern Stone Restaurant here in Bloomington, located at the corner of Patterson and Rogers, where this Monday you can catch Don Fisher and Mike Whitson inside Indiana basketball at 7:05. We're back with more Indiana basketball, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Whether it's a celebration or just said Indiana basketball. I can't believe it.
You also said, what did you say? You said Dean Galloway instead of Dean Garrett earlier as well. I don't know if you caught that.
Dean Galloway.
When you're talking about the post-game show.
Who the hell is Dean Galloway?
I guess you're
sounds like a solid player. A nice little hybrid mix of the two.
Yeah, that would be good. I'm tired, man.
Yeah, that was a heck of a game.
Mm-hmm. I am tired. Oh, how's the trip going?
It's good. Packing up to leave tomorrow morning. So short-lived.
Where are you heading?
But back out to New York.
Oh, where are you at right now?
Back in 80. Yeah.
Meatloaf died, man.
Yep. Saw that.
Dog.
Huh?
No.
What? Oh, you mean the singer Meatloaf?
Yeah.
I thought you meant a dog named Meatloaf.
Oh, gosh.
Thank God I saw a headline of that this morning, or else I really would have been confused because I'd sit there and just rattle my brain for a second. We've had a lot of celebrities die recently. Betty White, Bob Saget, now Meatloaf.
Yeah, who's not a dog?
It always happens in 3, baby.
Is that true? Is that like a saying?
3s, yeah. Come on, man.
It's interesting.
Bat out of hell, baby. I wish we could play that.
Yeah, I wish we could play any copyrighted music.
I thought you could play 30 seconds or less.
I've gotten caught with less than that, so I'm not even going to try it.
You could play 15 seconds.
That's why I only played the Sound of Madness outro for like 4 or 5 seconds. I'm eventually gonna make a different outro too, because there's no need to do that. All right, here we go.
Ball and plenty more. Simply go to thehoosier.com and sign up. It's free. You can also find full episodes of Indiana Sports Beat Radio on the homepage or on the station every week, Monday through Friday. If we're not on a station where you live, we should be. Ask for Indiana Sports Beat Radio. This segment is brought to you by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Welcome back. It is Friday, and the weekend is here. And if you're the Hoosier fans, they are jacked and ready to get to it because they're coming off of a gigantic win. Alec Lasley from thehoosier.com joins me now. Alec, how are you, man?
Good. How are you doing?
Great. I'm tired. It's a long day yesterday, starting with the show and ending late last night with the post-game show with Dean Garrett and Ted Kitchell, which was a blast. But this is what the Indiana fans have been looking for 6 years. To me, I sent out a tweet. I think this is probably the biggest win in 6 years for Indiana. And going in, you knew that Assembly Hall was going to be rocking, you thought, and did not disappoint in any stretch of the imagination. It was to the level that I haven't seen it in 6 years at least. And it lived up to the billing.
Yeah, I mean, I think even you could just feel over the last few days, kind of heading into this week, there was just a lot more buzz and energy around this matchup than you had in previous years. Regardless of what that record was in the series, I think there was just a different type of energy around this program going into this game, and a lot more belief that Indiana could win. Even if people didn't want to say that outwardly, I think internally there was just a lot more belief because of who is on the sideline and kind of what he's been able to do, regardless of some of the mishaps over this season. But yeah, it was that environment in Assembly Hall last night was incredible, and I think that's what everyone was waiting for. This was kind of the lead up to everything that's happened in the offseason, everything that happened so far this season, all the recruiting wins that Mike Woodson won, all the games that Mike Woodson's won so far, and some of the very positive momentum that he's had. I think last night just it was that moment that the crowd and the fan base was really waiting for, just to kind of explode. And you saw that throughout the entire game when they went up big in the first half. You saw that energy come back when Purdue made that early run in the second half, and then you obviously saw it at the end with Rob Phinisee's game winner, and then storming the court, and that picture of Rob Phinisee being held up by not
that
only
is
Trey
the greatest
Jackson.
picture. That's one of the best pictures. I just saw it a minute ago. That's on the
Yep.
Hoosier.com that you have up there. What an incredible photo. And if you haven't seen that, go to the Hoosier.com. It's a mass down on the floor, and you just see Rob being kind of it's perfect. It's a great picture.
And I think that just kind of shows you his emotions, right? You know, we heard him and saw him post game, and even Mike Woodson getting choked up a little bit post game talking about Rob Phinisee. The career that he's had obviously hasn't gone the way that he wanted. So, you know, up to this point that a lot of fans thought he would have at Indiana. And I think you just saw that kind of come out last night. The fan base really wanted to root for Rob Phinisee. I think everyone always wants to root for Rob Phinisee because of just the guy that he is and the hard worker that he is. Things just always haven't come into place, and last night was that moment for him. And what a special moment it was to be against Purdue, and in that streak and in his streak of 0-6 against Purdue, and then obviously get that first win for Mike Woodson against Purdue in such a big time game.
Yeah, I left this comment up here from Tony. Coach Woodson has shown confidence and love for a group of kids that haven't always received such in the past from coaching staffs and fans alike. It seems to be showing results. There's no seems to be. This is definitive. I mean, you can just look at Rob Phinisee as an example and watch him, and he is transformed. Well, that's not an accident. That didn't just happen. That confidence, this team has not beaten Purdue in 9 tries. There's a reason. They lost confidence a long time ago, and they did not have that. And we've heard the clips from both Rob and Mike Woodson talking about the conversation they had. That stuff didn't happen before. It is making a major difference for these players, Alec, as individuals, and it shows.
Yeah, and I think even if it's minimal, I think you've seen the growth in almost every single player at times throughout the season. And regardless of if Mike Woodson is outwardly saying it to the media and to these fans about any of his players, obviously Rob Phinisee being the one who seems to get talked about the most in terms of his relationship with Mike Woodson. But I think you now see just the growth, the confidence that he's instilled in all of these guys. And we've talked about it throughout the entire season, but I think you're really starting to see it now. And especially a guy like Rob Phinisee, who, as we've talked about, just seemed kind of broken mentally throughout his career, especially coming into this season. I don't think a lot of people expected a lot out of him. I don't think a lot of people expected him to play at that significant level that Indiana really needed. And obviously, at times this season he has, at times he hasn't. I think he still needs to find that consistent mark there. But man, last night was not only his best game in an Indiana uniform. It was his best first half. It was another big time shot that he seems to make throughout his career when Indiana really, really needs it in close games. And it was just, I think the expression that Mike Woodson and that reaction that Mike Woodson had after the game obviously was huge for him to win that game. But I think he had an extra special moment knowing that it was Rob Phinisee hitting that shot and kind of seeing everything come full circle from when he first took the job to that pregame speech that he had with Rob Phinisee to then obviously seeing that shot and seeing the reaction afterwards.
Absolutely. And it's just fun to watch. Rob played with confidence for the first time ever for me. That kind of confidence, I think, but
that was a different kind of confidence. We've seen confidence from Rob Phinisee before, but that was hey, get on my back. I'm going to carry you guys.
And it started in the very beginning because
Yep.
Didn't he take a shot like 10 seconds after he came into the game, a three,
Yep.
and just put it up and bam, he just come
It
in.
It was a confident shot. He didn't hesitate, and that's the thing. When he doesn't hesitate, he can be a good shooter, but he seems to hesitate because he doesn't have that confidence typically. And last night, just that first shot, I think once he saw that go down, even the couple misses that he had, throughout the second half there, even though he didn't get a ton of shots in the second half, the fact that he told Mike Woodson that he wanted the ball in his hands and he wanted that last shot, I think just shows you what type of player he was last night and what type of player he can be. So I think obviously Indiana fans shouldn't expect this kind of performance from Rob Phinisee every single game going forward. But I think you can expect a much more confident player on the floor in whatever role that he needs to play. And I think that's the best thing for a backup point guard and for a point guard for a Mike Woodson team so far that we've seen throughout his tenure here is you need a confident point guard and you need a confident point guard in his role. And we saw that with Rob Phinisee last night, needing to take the big shots, needing to put the team on his back a little bit and score the ball. And I think you're going to see a much more confident in his role type player throughout the rest of the season here, whatever that role may be. It'll probably change game to game, but I think you're going to see that moving forward.
Well, and I asked this question earlier. What would this game have been like had Trace Jackson Davis stayed in? Had he not had to go out? I don't know that they wouldn't have relied on the guards as much probably, and it may have changed the outcome. So unbelievably as this is to say, having your All-American on the bench may have been the best thing for Indiana last night because it put Purdue into a situation that they did not expect. They were planning on Trace Jackson Davis. They were planning on having to deal with him and Race Thompson. They were not planning on not having to deal with him and having to deal with Xavier and Rob knocking down shots all night. That was not part of the plan. And Zach Edey, with all of that, with Trace Jackson Davis spending all that time on the bench, how in the hell does Zach Edey only score 12 points and only put up 6 shots?
Yeah, I think you just look at the team defense that Indiana played. I mean, you force 12 turnovers from Purdue and 10 in the first half there, and I think the smaller lineup really forced Matt Painter to go away from even playing Zach Edey as much as he really wanted to. I am surprised that he stuck with Travion Williams as much as he did in the first half and honestly throughout the game because he just had a really difficult time getting going, and Indiana really didn't do a lot of doubles defensively. They kind of let Michael Dorr do whatever he wanted, either on Zach Edey or Travion Williams, and they would do some soft doubles with some different guards. You saw Rob Phinisee kind of fake down and get a deflection a couple times. You saw Tamar Bates do that. You saw Trey Galloway do that, but they never really came with a true double like they did with Trace Jackson Davis a few times when he was in the game. Or even they did it with Michael Dorr once where they had a really hard double from their other big man. And I think we've seen at times the one thing that Matt Painter struggles with and his Purdue team struggle with is smaller teams that are a lot quicker, that have a huge matchup advantage. And he struggled to adjust to that. And I think last night was a key to that again. And you didn't really see 2 bigs in there. You really didn't see Jordan Geronimo in there a lot in the second half. It was a lot of 4 guards around Michael Dorr or Race Thompson. And that really made Indiana quicker and made them a lot faster in transition. It made them a lot faster on defense, able to switch on almost every single screen that they did have. And the hard hedges that any of those defenders did have pushed those guards out a little bit more, that made it a lot more difficult to actually get it back into the post. And I think that's the key when playing Purdue is you got to go smaller, you got to go more athletic, and you got to be quicker. And that's what Indiana was last night. And I mean, that shows. Obviously, it doesn't show everything defensively, but fast break points was 19-0 for Indiana. And that just shows you obviously getting those turnovers and then getting out in transition was a key part to that game. And you're not going to do that if you play Trayce Jackson-Davis and Race Thompson on the floor at the same time. And honestly, I just think Trayce Jackson-Davis is not a very good matchup against Purdue. As good as he is, he's just not able to kind of bang with those big bodies. He's a very physical player, right? But he's not that type of post defender. He's a lot better on the weak side. And that's where he gets most of his blocks is off of the weak side help. And you're not going to get that a lot going up against a 7'4" Zach Edey, or even a really tremendous passer in Travion Williams, who can kind of thread the needle with some passes out of those two big guys. So it just wasn't a matchup for Trayce Jackson-Davis. And we heard Mike Woodson talk about Michael Dorr leading up into this game. And it was obviously a huge game for him. And I think a huge confidence builder for this bench as well.
Yeah, and just again, I just can't wrap my head around how that transpired. But you wondered how they were going to beat this team, and how it came to be was not a way that any of us expected. Trayce Jackson-Davis, not only did he only play 11 minutes, he still had 4 fouls. He had the most personal fouls in the game of anybody, but because of exactly what you just talked about. I mean, Zach Edey is but another thing is how they were officiated. It seemed like they were allowed to bang, whether it was Edey or Williams, and then you let them bang you 3 times, and then you go up, and then you get called for the ticky-tack foul. That's the thing that drove me nuts. You cannot let a guy, and they were banging pretty hard. You can't give an offensive player, that much leeway and then call a ticky-tack foul like they would call sometimes. But oh well, I mean, I'm not complaining about officiating. I don't like to do that. But that's the only thing, and it's hard to officiate those big guys, because too often, though, the bigger guy will just turn and someone will fall down and they'll get called for a foul, which is not how it goes. That didn't happen last night, but
I think, I think the biggest thing with that, right, and it goes back to Trayce Jackson-Davis wanting to be a shot blocker, and I saw a comment over on the right about Michael Dorr playing great defense against Zach Edey. The main difference there is Michael Dorr is going straight up and he's not jumping to try to block the shot. He's just trying to play solid defense and force some sort of different shot attempt than a normal layup for Zach Edey. And that's the big thing with Trayce Jackson-Davis has, like we just talked about, as good of a weak side defender as he is, he's not a tremendously good on-ball defender, because all he wants to do is block the shot. And that's great, especially if you have a Race Thompson alongside you, who is a tremendous on-ball defender in the post. But if you're the guy who's expected to kind of shut down a Travion Williams or a Zach Edey more so, that's just not going to work. And that was why Michael Dorr just was the better matchup last night. I think even regardless of if Trayce Jackson-Davis was in foul trouble, it just opened up a lot more for Indiana defensively, because he's just a lot more fundamentally sound in post defense. And that was the key in obviously slowing him down.
We got to take is it break time? Yeah, it's break time. We're going to take a break, but when we come back, we got lots more to get to. Michigan is up next for this Indiana team, and another streak on the line. Also, Forrest asking, Miro Little was in the crowd last night, as was Gabe Cupps. Gabe Cupps is already committed, but Miro Little, that had to be an absolute incredible. Indiana could not have scripted a better atmosphere for him to be a part of, for him to be there for. He went to Baylor to visit. He went to Villanova, and I guarantee you he didn't see anything like what he saw last night. That atmosphere alone could be enough to sell him. Mike Woodson is probably enough. We got lots more coming up. Indiana Sports Beat Radio, back with more, brought to you by our good friends at Andy Moore Honda Bloomington. If you're looking for a deal, there's nobody that has better ones than they do. $0 down, 0% APR financing. Andy Moore Honda Bloomington. We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the golf club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurants.
Sports on television.
I put this in one of the post-game articles, but did you know what Rob's career averages were against Purdue in his 6 games?
No.
So
very good.
obviously the points are what they are, right? 6.5. I don't think that's too crazy to think about, but 15 of 47, so basically 32%, 5 of 26 from 3.
Wow.
In 6 games in 26.5 minutes per game. Played 26 minutes last night, and obviously those stats were just slightly different.
Man, I forgot to make coffee this morning. It's probably because I didn't need it, but now I want some after I see you taking a drink.
I don't know. After last night, I don't know if I'd be able to make it through today with that one.
I knew I had a few things extra to do this morning. I made a different intro with Don's call.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
And so I was like, I've got to get up early and make sure that I can get this done correctly, because it's a weird little audio surgery is not always easy.
Yeah.
You're picking apart old intros and putting in new stuff.
I am sure.
I had no idea that Indiana had lost 8 straight to Michigan until I learned that like yesterday or something. Did you know that? They had lost 17 straight games between Purdue and Michigan.
Yeah, not an ideal. Looking at the schedule coming into the season, not
Actually,
back-to-back lineup.
There are 3 streaks that they can vanquish in 3 successive games that involved an 0-25 mark.
20 seconds.
0-8 on the road. 0-9 against Purdue.
Yep.
Percent APR financing over 48 months and $0 down. Get more to your door with AndyMooreHonda.com.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by RE/MAX Advanced Realty, Indy Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the golf club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurants.
Welcome back. It is a good-looking Friday outside. Sun is out. The peeps are happy. It's Friday. What more could you ask for other than a little warmer weather? I'd love to have that. Hey, before we're having lots of fun here, but before I forget, Meatloaf passed away, man. If you're a fan of, what was the movie? My favorite one, a great movie when I was a kid, Rocky Horror Picture Show. He was in none of you guys, or half of you guys never heard of that probably. Half of you have. But just a character. He was not terribly famous, but I mean, if you're my age, you damn well know who he was. Hate to see that. Alec Lasley from the Hoosier.com with me right now. Looking at some numbers, and I mentioned this earlier, but Indiana can vanquish in 3 successive games 3 streaks that combine to reach 0-25. They were 0-8 on the road. They've already taken care of that with the road win at Nebraska. They were 0-9 against Purdue. They've taken care of that with the win last night. And now they're 0 for their last 8 against Michigan, as the Wolverines will come in to Assembly Hall. And Indiana's undefeated there. if they can complete the trilogy, Alec, that in and of itself, in a nutshell, is a massive turnaround for a program. I mean, people that had questions about Mike Woodson, you got to stop. You got to stop. Stop asking about who's not playing. That drives me absolutely insane when people are just going on and on and on about why you got to. No, you don't have to. If you listen to this show, you know that I will say exactly what I think. And if I will cut on, and I'll cut on you if I think you need cut on. Ask Archie Miller. Let Mike Woodson be the coach. He's done a damn good job so far. I haven't complained about one thing. Let him do it. I'm not in practice, so I don't see what's going on. They do. There's a reason why they do what they do. Now, Archie was a different story. That was to be questioned for numerous reasons. This isn't, and therefore I don't. Not that it's perfect. It's not. I think that there's learning along the way for Mike. He's learning with these rotations. That rotation killed him because they lost to Iowa simply because of that. No doubt in my mind. That's a win they could have had. So, man, they could have had that one. You know, they could have had the Wisconsin win. Should have had the stupid Syracuse win. I'm not going to say they should have had the Penn State game because there's upsets that happen, and everybody gets upset in this season. But realistically, this team could have one loss right now. Easily, Alec. Easily have one loss. And that would even change the narrative even further. But they've had their growing pains. So this is probably better because if they had one loss, there would be maybe unreasonable expectations for this team. I think they've been allowed to grow at a slower pace, even though that Wisconsin game was a hard loss. People say, all right, this team's not where they need to be, giving them a little more time. And I think that's exactly what this team needs. It's what Mike Woodson needs as well. He's bringing them along as the season progresses. It starts in November. It doesn't end till March, folks. And we're in January. Let them continue to go. And they're going in the way I think they should, Alec. They are growing as a team. And if that wasn't growth last night by a team, I don't know what is.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is the time of season where you want to start hitting your stride and you want to start playing your best basketball is kind of in the middle of your conference play. And that's now kind of what we're seeing Indiana do. Obviously, you want to see them continue to build off of this, right? They were able to do that earlier this season with good back-to-back wins against Ohio State and then Minnesota. Something they weren't able to do over the past couple seasons is really build off of not only those bigger wins, but also ranked wins, which you need to do, especially in the Big Ten when you're playing a quality opponent almost every single night. And so, you know, I think regardless of what Michigan is or isn't at this point in the season, which is obviously not the Michigan of the past few seasons, it's still a streak that you talked about, right? Where they've lost 7 in a row by double digits. None of these games have been close, whether they're in Ann Arbor or Bloomington. So to build off of a record-breaking, Purdue game last night and win against Michigan after, just like you said, beating Nebraska on the road and ending that drought, I think that's going to be a lot of growth for this team. But I think you do need to build off of this Purdue win with a Michigan win, especially to show, again, that you can get over the hump with multiple straight wins and start to build some momentum and start to build some sort of winning streak in this conference, which is obviously so difficult to build in. And that's going to be the biggest thing for Indiana. You heard Rob Phinisee talk about it last night is, hey, obviously this is a great win. We're going to celebrate this one tonight, but it's a quick turnaround. It's a quick turnaround to playing on Sunday. 3 games this week. Obviously, you have a banged up Trace Jackson Davis, and it clearly showed last night that he was still a little bit hobbled by that hard fall. And so to go 3-0 in this week after a really disappointing Iowa loss, and to beat Purdue, to beat Nebraska on the road, and then to beat Michigan and end those 3 streaks, I think that's exactly kind of what that winning streak is that you really, really want, especially when you kind of look at what the rest of their schedule is. And the next few games are definitely winnable. And you look now, and I don't want to get too kind of carried away or looking too in the future here, especially when you really do need to take it game by game, especially in the Big Ten. And I would say, especially with this Indiana team. But you have a Penn State team coming to Bloomington next week. Obviously, Indiana is going to be fired up for that one, and deservedly so. And I think, just like you said, that's a Penn State team that probably should not have beaten Indiana last time. Then you go at Maryland, a team that is really nothing at this point in conference. Obviously, you have a tough Illinois team, but that's in Bloomington, and then at Northwestern, right? So these next 5 games, including Michigan, could really be a huge jumpstart and really build a great streak going into the back half of Big Ten play, and really kind of catapult and put Indiana in the top 3 here of the Big Ten. And I don't think a lot of people are talking about that as much as they probably should right now. Is this schedule is really kind of shaping up to help Indiana a lot here in the next 2 weeks. And that would be a huge matchup then if you look at what they can do over the next 2 weeks, going to the Breslin Center to play a top 15, most likely Michigan State team, which would probably at that point be realistically for the top of the Big Ten in mid-February. I mean, that's these next 2 weeks could really be a huge moment for this Indiana basketball program.
Absolutely. And speaking of Illinois, Kofi Coburn in concussion protocol right now. Did not travel with the team to Maryland. I believe they play tonight. Illinois at Maryland. So it'd be interesting to see how that turns out. That may equal things up for that game. Like you said, Maryland has not been the greatest this year. But yeah, Indiana, what's their record right now? What are 13-3? They're ahead of Purdue in the Big Ten right now, by the way.
Purdue struggled in the Big Ten. They have not played well in the Big Ten.
Had Purdue not beaten Illinois the other night in that overtime game, it would be crazy, because they would be what, 6th? And they're the highest ranked team in the league.
Yep.
And they still may be the best team in the league. It's going to be hard to tell, but yeah, I agree. Unfortunately for Indiana, the schedule is their favor this year. They don't have to go to Michigan. They don't have to go to where else? Illinois.
Yep.
They don't. So the schedule's their friend this year, and I think it's going to benefit them greatly. I still see that this is a tournament team, and they're playing their way into a better seed. The Big Ten, you've gone from having Purdue as a projected number 1 seed. Now it's looking like Wisconsin could be a number 1 seed. And you had this team down by 22. They're going to be a number 1 seed. That shows what you have. I want to make sure I hit some of these comments. There was one I really wanted to hit. Oh, anyway. Miller Kopp. People complain a lot because he doesn't score a lot. Well, everybody is not going to score. Everybody does not. Everyone has a role. Go back to think about Bob Knight teams if you're old enough. He had guys out there that never score. If they thought about taking a shot, their ass would have been on the bench quickly. They were not out there to shoot. But yeah, Indiana, these guys are, whether it's Trey Galloway, Jordan Geronimo, Michael Durr, what a step up he took last night. And the most hostile, not environment, but the game, that's as tough a situation as he has been in, at least at Indiana. And he stood up. He did not with offensively, but in other ways, he still scored 4 points, but he played 24 minutes. Hell, that's equal to probably the last 3 games combined that he's played. The one guy that is still not clicking, Tamar Bates. Because you look down at a potential second unit with Rob and Jordan Geronimo and Michael Durr, Trey Galloway, and Tamar Bates, that's not a bad sounding lineup right there. But Tamar's kind of the weaker link at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, it's as
he's a freshman. He's a freshman. He's a freshman. He's a freshman.
As a freshman, right? I mean, I think he kind of pushed those expectations a little bit greater after the start of the season that he had with a couple double-digit scoring games and a couple really good highlight plays. Obviously, he struggled in the Big Ten. I think every guard goes through some struggles as a freshman anywhere in the country. But I think especially in the physical style of play that the Big Ten has to offer. I think he's still trying to find his role a little bit at this point. He started this season as kind of that energy guy off the bench. Trey Galloway's obviously passed him up in specifically what that role is. And then Trey Galloway offers a lot more on the floor than Tamar Bates does as a whole package there. But I think if you still look at the roster as a whole and you compare that to rosters in the Big Ten or across the country, if you're having Tamar Bates, a top 40 freshman in the country as your 9th-ish, 10th-ish man coming off the bench, that shows you kind of the depth and the experience that you have. I think more than anything is that experience. And that's what you need to win big time games in February, big time games in March, and make deep runs in the NCAA tournament. You don't see a lot of teams relying on freshmen for the most part come into the season. They may have really, really good, starts of the season, but once you get into the kind of middle part of conference play, right where we are, almost now, you seem to see that production from some of those freshmen really drop off. And I think you're still going to have some moments of really good play from Tamar Bates, but again, I don't think you don't need to rely on him in that second unit. And as long as he goes in there, maybe hits a shot or two a game, just plays fundamentally sound defense and doesn't really turn the ball over, he's still going to get his. And you've seen him make some plays. He had that steal and dunk, against Nebraska. You had him have a really good pass to Michael Durr for a lay-in, or Race Thompson, excuse me, for a lay-in last night. So as long as he makes those plays and continues to play well with that second unit, I think you look and say, hey, Tamar Bates is our 9th guy, and you feel really, really good about where you're at as a rotation.
Chris says you still got to get more shots from Stewart and Kopp, and I'm not sure about that. Stewart, yes. Miller, I don't think you need more shots from him. I think you just let him fill a role that he's filling. His role is not to be the shooter. He can shoot apparently, but that's not his role. But one thing I don't tend to really like sometimes is, and last night I'm going to have to go and look at this, but Race Thompson may have he attempted 3 3-point shots last night. Miller Kopp won. Race Thompson should not be shooting 3-1 over Miller Kopp behind the perimeter. I know that what he wants Race to take that shot, but he is not. Has he hit one this season? I don't recall him hitting one.
I think he said 2 or 3, but yeah, I mean, it's obviously you don't want him taking those shots. I think one was a little bit rushed yesterday. The other 2 kind of in rhythm. Obviously that's not your first or second option, right, offensively. But I think he still needs to continue to take at least one a game, just to keep that defense a little bit from clogging the paint there. But in the grand scheme of things, right, I mean, I think Miller Kopp is what Miller Kopp is at this point for this team this season. He started to play a lot better defensively, and Mike Woodson touched on that yesterday, the game that Miller Kopp played, even though he didn't play a ton of significant minutes. I think only 4 or 5 in he played about 9 in the second half, and 7 in the first there. But quiet game offensively, but you didn't need that when you had a lot of production coming from Xavier Johnson and Rob Phinisee. Trey Galloway obviously had a good game. Race Thompson hit some big buckets. So, you don't need a lot from Miller Kopp at this point. He's probably, just like Tamar Bates and just like Parker Stewart, going to have 1 or 2 games down the stretch where they're going to need a big shot or big 5-minute spurts or a big defensive game. and they're probably going to show up. But yeah, at this point, I think as long as you're getting somewhat consistent guard play, doesn't have to be 38 points and 0 turnovers like it was last night with Phinisee and Xavier Johnson. But as long as you're getting some consistent guard play out of those two, you're not going to need 10 plus points from Miller Kopp, and obviously he hasn't showed that he can do that yet this season. But he'll probably be asked to hit a big shot or two, and I think you still have confidence knowing that if you have to go down your roster to a 5th or 6th potential scorer in Miller Kopp, that's still a much better 5th or 6th option than a lot of other teams have in the country.
We've got to hit a break, but I also, Jackie says the Painter did not have his team out stretching and practicing 40 minutes prior to the game like every other visiting coach has this season. I guess to keep them insulated from the fans until the game backfired. I noticed that too, and I remember I turned to the AP guy sitting next to me in our seat. And I was like, has Purdue even been out? Because I did not see them out until they came back out for the final shoot around. Never saw them out there. And yeah, they've been here before. I mean, but I think Matt Painter knew this was going to be a raucous crowd, but yeah, if that was the case, it did not work. But that and the 3 turnovers, man, we've so much more we could talk about, but we hit a break. I appreciate you, brother. Make sure to go to thehoosier.com. They've got so much content up there. Anything else to hit up on that, Alec? Thehoosier.com.
Yeah, just biggest thing, right? Amir Little finishing up his official visit this weekend. Obviously, Gabe Cup's at the game. They both loved that environment last night. Obviously, a terrific environment to be at. Not only a rivalry game, but then just all that energy around Mike Woodson's first game against Purdue, and then the game winner. All right, that's a significant moment. I would say in Amir Little's so far official visit, especially when you compare it to 2 of the other games with Baylor and Villanova not playing as well as they probably could, with Villanova even losing as well too. So, that's a significant moment, especially the way that crowd was, and watching both of them sit next to each other last night behind that Indiana bench. They were starting to build a little bit of a relationship there, right? And I think any guy that you would want on your team recruiting as a high school player is Gabe Cupps, the guy who loves basketball, loves tradition, and just texting with him a little bit after the game, he had fun, and I think you saw that, and I think you're going to see that kind of boil over into Mira Little. Whether or not that pushes him to Indiana, obviously we'll have to wait and see, but that was a significant moment, I would say, out of those 3 visits that he's had so far.
Absolutely, brother. Thank you so much. Go to thehoosier.com and give Alec a follow on Twitter at Al Lasley. Appreciate you, man.
Appreciate it, guys. Have a good one.
You bet. Hey, we've got more coming up. Zach Osterman from the Indy Star joins us next. Back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by our friends from Remax Realty. Cheryl Sizemore, if you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl's 2 decades of experience. Could be the difference in you getting the home you want. Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com. Back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Zach Osterman right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
If you're in the market.
Jim?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to duck to the bathroom real fast if that's okay.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, yeah, you're good.
I'll be right back.
Did you see my text?
I don't know. What did it say?
Well,
should I read it? Should I?
You don't have to. It's not that big a deal. I don't even know why. I should have just told you. Aaron Matus is going to be at 10-10. I haven't heard from Bob Kravitz, so I'm kind of assuming we're not going to have Bob Kravitz. So after Zach, you can take Zach a couple minutes long since we don't have anybody for 9:50, and then you can have a shorter segment in between, and then you'll have Aaron at 10-10 to finish things out. Sound all right?
Mm-hmm. What'd you say?
You heard me.
No, I didn't. I really didn't. I heard you. I wasn't paying attention. I was doing something.
I said you can take Zach a couple minutes long because we're not going to have anybody at 9:50. Then you can do a shorter segment by yourself in between, and then we'll have Aaron Matus at 10-10.
we can do some more clips.
Yes. And while you have Zach on, I will look for your question. I know I'm sure we need to get yours in for Woody.
Wow. Almost 5,000 views on the tweet I sent out of the post-game celebration.
Yep.
13
Too bad
retweets.
you can't make money off that from Twitter. That should be your new pinned tweet, though. Considering your other pinned tweet has a misspelling in it.
I can't help that.
I know. I wish you could edit tweets.
Dude, hey, there is something, though, that I found out that there's an app. If I don't have my glasses on, I screw myself with tweets all the time.
I've noticed.
I can't see. I literally can't. I'll be holding it out. I'm like, is that one word? Is that word running together? I'm like, it sucks.
I'll bet. All right. Zach, I guess we'll be back with us shortly. I'm going to drop him out until I see him come back in. So the screen is just blank, but I'll keep an eye on it in the green room. Oh, here he comes. All right, here we go. 10 seconds.
Max Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com. Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry.
Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this good-looking Friday. Jim Coyle with you as always, and now joined by the great Zach Osterman from the Indy Stars. Zach, how are you, sir? How's the baby?
Baby's fine. Baby's downstairs asleep as far as I know. So.
Now, are you going? Is this a new the shirt there? Who is that? Because if I didn't know better,
Man United, the soccer team. I don't know. I just grabbed.
I knew it was soccer. If I didn't know that, I would have guessed it from some Star Wars deal with that gold. They got to really like the gold, don't they?
Yeah, I don't know why they went with this one particularly sort of white and gold. This is, I think, their away shirt. Their home shirt is black and red, but it was a Christmas gift for my sister, and who says white's not my color? Who says it's not my color?
Something else I learned is the European soccer teams generally change their uniforms yearly to sell merchandise.
Yeah, it didn't used to be that way. That's evolved as the sport has kind of evolved commercially. And even I can remember 10 years ago, 12 years ago, they only change it once every 2 years. They keep a uniform combination once every 2 years, but now they change them. They change the whole kit yearly, and it's pretty much for the reason you said there, to get parents to buy, kids the brand new shirt or whatever it is. So not exactly
the sister.
Yeah, not exactly the most heartwarming or inspiring thing, but certainly that I guess everybody's got to make money somehow.
And I saw you took care of our good friend Chronic, dropping off some beer and pulled pork while he was on the mend so he could watch the Indiana-Purdue game with some enjoyment.
Yeah, I hope he's doing well. I think his family, I think he said it was kind of coming out the other side of it. I think we're all kind of destined for this at this point, but it's just a matter of how severe it gets, and not to turn into a public service announcement, but, everybody I know who's had it's been vaccinated, and basically they've all been fine. So let's all just take care of ourselves, take care of each other, smoke some good meat, and get through it together.
Absolutely. Speaking of smoking, Indiana was doing just that last night at the Simon Scott Assembly Hall, as were the students and the entire crowd. As expected, it was a raucous environment, one that I had not seen, and I don't think anyone has seen, is probably 6 years. And they got exactly what they came for. but not in the way they expected it, Zach. I mean, no. And the question I asked Mike afterwards, if I'd have said that Trace Jackson Davis would play 11 minutes and score 4 points, what the hell do you think your chances would have been? What would anybody have thought Indiana's chances would have been in that game? But man, it forced them to do some things differently, and they were extraordinarily successful in doing that.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously there's some parts of yesterday that will probably sort of be remembered for, I don't want to say how unlikely they were, but, just remembered as kind of high watermarks. I think Rob Phinisee's performance maybe being one of them. But in the same breath, I think, we have known, or we have believed for a long time, that as good as Trace Jackson Davis is, as good as Race Thompson is, IU's guards were the key to sort of finding this team's ceiling. And, only 6 assists last night, which is obviously a very low number on 24 made baskets, but only 3 turnovers either. And
which is nuts for a team that has turned it over
none committed
times, 3 times.
None committed by a guard. I mean, I can't remember the last time I saw an IU team with a turnover rate under 5% in a game. It's very, even for some IU teams that have been good holding onto the ball, that's a very low number. It's very rare. And, between them, Rob Phinisee and Xavier Johnson, 38 points, 8 rebounds, 2 assists, 0 turnovers. That makes an enormous amount of difference. I also thought too, I mean, it was interesting to me last night to hear because I listened to his comments, and I wasn't there because I'm still on leave, but, talk about, for example, like Miller Kopp, who did not score, but I thought Woodson pointing out how well he played defensively was justified. Obviously Trey Galloway with some key minutes off the bench, Michael Durr with some huge minutes off the bench. It's cliche, but when you lose Trace Jackson Davis, the response you need is for other guys to up their game. And you got a little bit of that Sunday at Nebraska, enough to get through that game. And while no, Indiana never blew Nebraska out, I don't think they covered. The flip side was I don't think Nebraska was within 6 until like the last 10 seconds of the game. So you neither blew them away nor at any point were really under threat of losing that game. Nebraska never led. But this is a different kind of response. This is a different kind of – it's one thing to play probably the worst team in the Big Ten and nurse your way through the last 9-10 minutes without your star. It's another thing to play maybe the best team in the Big Ten, certainly the deepest team in the Big Ten, and have to live for a lot of 40 minutes without your star. And even when he's on the floor, for him not to be super impactful just because he's basically – his minutes are so chopped up. I mean, it's hard to see, but it also wasn't like as a team, Indiana kind of did anything abnormal. Like Rob Phinisee did something a little bit abnormal, obviously, but as a team, Indiana still only hit 6 threes. That they were still out rebounded by 9. Again, 6 assists on 24 made baskets. I think Matt Painter could live with that. Indiana missed 10 of its 24 free throws. My point was, Rob Phinisee's performance notwithstanding, it wasn't like Indiana did anything kind of unicornish last night to win the game. You basically just exchanged Phinisee for Trace Jackson Davis and then beat Purdue almost straight up everywhere else. And I think that speaks well of what this team can be capable of if it can just get not 38 points a night between the two guys, but just steady guard play like what it got last night. Even from some of the guys that didn't score, still weren't turning the ball over, weren't forcing bad shots, still felt like you were getting good defense from guys, things like that. If you can get that, then you can live with the rest of it, at least through the end of this season, in my opinion.
Absolutely. I agree. The fact that they were able to hold a team like Purdue that has Zach Edey and Travion Williams to a total production of 14 points on 6 of 10 shooting. if I'm Purdue, I am just taking advantage after advantage of that. I don't know why they were not able to do that. But that was the biggest fear coming into the game, and that turned out not to be the case. Of course, Indiana's guards, who have caught so much flack, caught fire no more than Rob Phinisee, who just seemed like a man on a mission. There's after the game, Woody and Rob talked about the conversation they had. And, there was that conversation had before the last game where he talked about, hey, I don't know what was going on before, but I'm your coach. You're playing for Coach Woodson now, and I love you. And then again, last night they talked about another conversation they had, and it's obviously paying dividends because Rob Phinisee comes into the game and just starts shooting and knocking down shots. Even at the end of the game, when he missed the wide open three, it comes right back and they run it to him, and then he hits the next shot. That is a level of confidence that I've never seen from Rob Phinisee at Indiana, but haven't seen in a player at IU in a few years like that.
Yeah, I mean, and I know we're here talking about Indiana. I mean, I do think Purdue, as good as Purdue is, and there's nothing wrong with Purdue still having some things to figure out. It's January 21st. It does still feel like they're figuring some things out, though. Like it still feels like, for example, who's your main point guard? Aren't you maybe just at your best when it's basically Jaden Ivey, but can you do that for, 40 minutes or 33 minutes or however much time he's on the floor? How do you balance Trevion Williams and Zach Edey when they're two very different kinds of post players, but you can't really play them together? Where does that leave sort of the role you're trying to find for a Mason Gillis or a Caleb First or whoever? I think Purdue has every chance to be one of the best teams in the country come March. I think it's probably better for them that they're an incomplete article right now, but I think Indiana took advantage of some of that last night. I think Indiana leveraged some of Purdue still sort of figuring itself out when you talk about, for example, Jaden Ivey's quiet first half, or as you say there, living in the post, not necessarily, I don't know if there was ever a time without Jackson Davis, Indiana was winning down low. But I don't know that there was ever a time where Indiana was hanging on by its fingernails either, where you felt like Indiana was just absolutely, basically one more bad possession away from the rubber band breaking, so to speak, in the paint at either end.
And they still managed to outscore Purdue by 2 in the paint, 30-28.
And that was, I think, that too, again, when you talk about what worked well for Indiana last night, that to me was as much about guard play. And on the defensive end, ball pressure, not allowing easy touches. Zach Edey kept having to – I don't know why my dogs are going crazy downstairs. I'm sorry. Zach Edey kept having to come out 10, 12 feet away from the basket for the ball because he had to get close to his guards because Indiana's ball pressure wasn't allowing easy post touches. And at the offensive end of the floor, Indiana was attacking. Rob Phinisee was getting to the rim. Xavier Johnson was getting to the rim. Trey Galloway was getting to the rim. They were all getting fouled. I mean, and again, I know that Indiana fans can be frustrated by 14 of 24 at the free throw line. I get that. But Indiana still doubled up Purdue in free throw points off free throws, and took 7 more of them. And, if you're Matt Payne, if you want frustration, go talk to Matt Painter, who would happily have shot 14 of 24 from the free throw line last night. He would have won the game if that had happened. So,
I noticed that they shoot 41%. Indiana shoots 58%, and 58% at the free throw line is what gets them by.
It shouldn't be good, but again, they doubled Purdue up on free throws. I mean, that, put it this way, one of the
in a 3-point game, it matters.
And in a game where you're playing such an efficient offense, one of the numbers that I think you're probably looking at is, basically point differential on threes plus free throws. Because those are two, the post game is kind of its own thing, and Indiana is outstanding defending twos. Last night, Purdue actually had a lot of success with it. They shot almost 55% on twos. But if you're talking about who outscored who in the post, or excuse me, if you're talking about who outscored who at the free throw line plus the 3-point line, Indiana's +1 there. And that makes, when you're playing a team that is so efficient offensively, and then you lose probably your most efficient offensive player, and also, and I think this makes sense, the player that is most key to your offense running efficiently, and you can still manage to beat Purdue, that really speaks well of a lot of things. And I will say too, That was, if I'm not mistaken, and I'll look it up while we're talking, the first time Purdue has been held under a point per possession in a game all year. And it's not like they've come close a lot. Like they had 1.01 against Iowa. I think that was their lowest number before last night. And we have wondered all season if Indiana's defense is real, because we saw Indiana in some seasons under Archie Miller start really well defensively. And then once they got into Big Ten play and the difficulty of competition cranked up and everything was more complicated or just sort of more relentless and you were just playing nothing but good opponents week after week, that those defensive numbers really started to recede. Last night is a suggestion that if you're Mike Woodson, those numbers aren't going anywhere. And if you are Indiana, if you're Mike Woodson, you're looking at your players and you're saying, this is for real. This is going to last. You keep doing this. You keep listening to us. We didn't even need Trace last night against the deepest front court in the league. He only played 11 minutes, and we still became the first team all season to hold Purdue under a point per possession. The defense is working, and it's becoming something that I think Indiana genuinely feels like it doesn't matter what happens at the other end of the floor now, because this is where our foundations are. And as long as we stay locked into what we need to and trust our coaches and trust each other, that's going to stick around. And I think that's very important for this team's development as well.
And if any fan wants to get a grip on what the coaches talk about when they talk about all the things they do, trying to put this together, the statistics for this game are the ones that you need to look at, because there are plenty. Purdue outshoots Indiana. They get one more field goal, as you've talked about. They hit two more 3-pointers, but the difference at the free throw line. But these other numbers, the turnovers, 10-1 in the first half, nuts. 12-3 overall. And
again, like none of your turnovers, and when you only have 3, it can't be that bad. Like if you have 3 turnovers, they could literally be Xavier Johnson turning around and throwing an alley-oop to Jaden Ivey. And it's still
two of them were by Trace Jackson Davis, who played 11 minutes in the game.
But when there's no guard turnovers, like Trace Jackson Davis turnovers typically don't lead to runouts. They don't lead to high-value possessions because they happen in high-traffic areas, and it's one of it's a loose ball on the floor or somebody fumbles it out of bounds. Either way, you have time for everybody to get back and set your defense. It's not those home run turnovers where it's a lazy pass around the perimeter, it gets picked off, and it's one on none. So it's not even that it's just a low number of turnovers. It's also, and to be fair, the Iowa game kind of notwithstanding, Indiana's has been better at this recently. I mean, it genuinely has. Nebraska wasn't great either, but like Penn State 10.1%, Ohio State 13.3%, Minnesota 9.5%. Indiana has been limiting turnovers, and in particular, it has been limiting those, what coaches call like touchdown turnovers, the ones that just go straight back the other way for points. And as much as I know he can frustrate fans at times,
Johnson, you might be talking about.
I repeat this number again: his assist rate all season is 31.4%. His turnover rate all season is 20.7%. In conference play alone, his assist rate is 30.1%. His turnover rate is only 16.6%. Rob Phinisee has seen a similar dip. And his numbers neither of his numbers is as high, but his assist rate overall is 17.9. His turnover rate overall is 18.9. In conference play, his assist rate is 16. His turnover rate is 13.7. They have both gotten substantially better deeper into the season, even as competition has stiffened. And those are the guys whose turnovers you need to eliminate the most. You can live with some big man turnovers because you don't want to waste possessions. Nobody's going to be perfect. And big man turnovers don't tend to lead to high quality transition opportunities. Guard turnovers do. And that was a big part of and Purdue was committing some of those last night. That's the other part of it. You were forcing Purdue into some of those without committing any of your own. That's how you beat a better team. And Purdue is a better team. Let's not pretend Purdue isn't a better team than Indiana. They have a higher ceiling. They're deeper. They're more experienced, and that's fine. Their coach has been there for 15 years or whatever it is. He's got his system and everything in place. But if you're Indiana last night, is the sort of game that you can transpose on the rest of the season and say, if we can do this and we can play this way against this team, for example, we can beat anybody at home. And if you can beat anybody at home, and then therefore, let's say go 9-1 in the conference at home, all you got to do is find 2 road wins and you're over 500.
Yeah, another number that jumps out at me from last night, the fast break points, 19-0. Zach, I mean, that you talk about the defense taking advantage of that and forcing Purdue, and Purdue will not be in that predicament probably the rest of the season, but for one of the most efficient offenses, that's a part of the result of their 12 turnovers, but that number is extraordinarily high for only having 12 turnovers to me.
And like, listen, again, some of this too is probably going to be unique to Purdue playing at Indiana. And it was a tough week for Purdue too. They had to go to Illinois on Monday, then they had to go to Indiana. You know, if at the beginning of the week you'd offered Matt Painter, you can win one of these two, like we're going to tell you you're going to go 1-1. He'd probably take that. He'd be like, yeah, we're going to get a quality. Either we're going to beat our rival in a tough environment, or we're going to go on the road against a Big Ten, a Big Ten title rival and get a quality road win. I'm fine with that. So some of it was also probably down to the environment and the moment and everything like that with Indiana. But again, if you're Mike Woodson, it's your first year on the job. You are looking for a variety of things. You're looking for stuff that you can basically, for lack of a better term, sell long-term. Like, if I'm Dane Fife, who I think has been over to Finland to see Myro Little, I'm sitting Myro Little down this morning before he leaves, and I'm saying, look at these last 2 sets we ran for Rob Phinisee, because the one he missed was an even better shot than the one he made. But both of them in key late game situations got us the shot we needed. This is the offense you can come be a part of. So you're trying to sell that to your current players. You're trying to convince them that they can be as good as you think they can be. And you're trying to build, basically the momentum of let's get to the NCAA tournament in season 1. Let's pick up some key wins in season 1. Let's build this idea that Indiana is on its way back up to something. And there's nothing that happens last night that dissuades that. When you can talk about that. You can talk about living without Trace Jackson Davis. You can talk about turnovers, whatever it is. You can say this. This becomes a reference point for the rest of the season to say, if we can do this, there is very little we can't do. If we can do this right here, right now, there's very little we can do. It's not going to say Indiana's going to be perfect. But like I would argue, and I know this probably isn't what people want to hear today, but I would argue Sunday is kind of the most must-win game they have had in a while, because Archie Miller did this a few times, never beat Purdue, but he beat Michigan State, he beat Ohio State, he beat Iowa. And we talked so many times toward the end of his tenure about his record in games after ranked wins. And the number of times that it felt like Indiana was ready to start building something tangible and quantifiable, and then they just let the door slam shut again. You got to find a way to win Sunday at Michigan, whatever it takes, and make it feel like you're building on something, because then you win Sunday at Michigan and all of a sudden you're 6-3 in the conference. You've won 5 of 6 with the blip being that, or not the blip, but the 5 of 6 after a kind of a weird, frustrating game at Penn State. Then 3 of your next 4 are Penn State at home, Maryland away, and Northwestern away. Like, I can draw you a path to Indiana being 8-4, 9-4 in the Big Ten that after last night is not that hard to see. After last night, plus Ohio State, plus Notre Dame, plus what they were able to do against Wisconsin, even though they lost the game, it's not that hard to see Indiana at 8-4, 9-4, 8-5, and then you're cruising. Like, then you're fine. And then we're talking about a ranked Indiana, an Indiana that's on the fringes of the Big Ten title conversation, an Indiana that is comfortably in the NCAA tournament, putting all of this sort of like, when is Indiana going to do it again? Putting all that pressure away, all of it. But this is the opportunity that Indiana struggled to seize basically the entirety of Archie Miller's tenure. They cannot let that go now. Michigan is beatable but talented. You've got to win Sunday.
They've lost 8 straight to the Wolverines. They have ended an 0-8 road streak. They've ended an 0-9 run against Purdue. Next up is Michigan. If they can do that, it does all that you have said, puts them back in the national conversation and more. Zach, thanks a lot, brother. It's been a great one as always. I hope you have a great weekend with the little one.
Absolutely. I'll be back at work next week, so going to maximize all the time I have.
Looking forward to it. Zach Osterman from the Indy Star joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat. Thanks, Zach. Appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. We've got lots more coming up here. Aaron Matus will join us, formerly of WDRB.com, but sports director for years and years. We'll talk about last night and what's coming up. And the games are coming. We haven't talked about anything else today. Man, it's been nuts. But that's okay. We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by our friends down in Southern Indiana, Sellersburg, Reynolds Family Dentistry. Need that championship smile? Go see Dr. J. He'll give it to you. We're back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Whether it's a celebration.
All right, you can run your clips. I've got your clip pulled up if you want to reference that again, and then any other clip that we haven't.
Man,
played.
we haven't talked about another thing in this show, but that's okay.
But that's what I figured today would be.
Yeah, people
You're retaining an audience if you haven't noticed.
Yep. As president.
I mean, in terms of impact, this is an impact for the fan base. This is probably the biggest win since.
Well, of course, 6 years.
UK win. Or
no,
I'm talking about.
No.
I guess you compare program momentum, that kind of stuff.
Well, there's some truth to that. But that team didn't have an All-American on it, did it?
Cody Zeller.
Was he on the 6 and 25 team?
No, Zeller wasn't. No,
that's not who beat Kentucky. Never mind. Yeah. Never mind. This is just.
I guess you could say Vic too, even though he wasn't an All-American yet.
I think it's not bigger. It's different.
It is different. It's just very similar vibe though, is what I get from it.
Yeah.
Because you're coming back from the Kelvin Sampson crap with that win. That's what that was. This is more like you're trying to get out of mediocrity. Man, the comments are nuts. I haven't looked at hardly any of them. You'll have about, this will be short. You only got to fill about 5 minutes or so with this if you want. Do whatever clips you want to pull, and you'll be good. Wow. I'm going to go ahead and bring us in from break.
Bloomington has the deals for you. How about a brand new 2021 or 2022 Honda Pilot? All the trims for 0% APR financing over 48 months and $0 down. Or how about a brand new 2021 Honda Passport? Also 0% APR financing over 48 months and $0 down. Get more to your door with AndyMooreHonda.com.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Aurora Specialty Sleep Clinic. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Welcome back on this Friday. Jim Coyle with you, Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Looks like a good-looking day out there. We'll talk to Aaron Matus next when he joins us. Before that, we've got some clips from last night. Don't forget about our friends at Aurora Specialty Sleep Clinic. Dr. Steve Green, former IU basketball player, Bob Knight's first recruit, no less, and Brian Evans have teamed up to help you get the sleep you need. Give them a visit at Aurora Specialty Sleep I saw Colin Hartman last night walking out. He was very excited with the win. That place was jumping. The balcony was full. Yeah, those students could not wait to get on that floor. And it was funny watching the security try to, it's like, man, I was thinking, ma'am, you need to get out of the way. Some of these older women, I'm like, yeah, just forget it. They're going. They're going, baby. You know what? There's two schools of thought. When you're a champion, when you're the pedigree that Indiana has, you're supposed to act like you've been there, but they haven't been there for a long time. These students hadn't been where they went to last night since they've been in college. So I couldn't care less. Yeah. Screw it. Let them have it. Get past that. Get back to being what you need to be. And you don't do that anymore. And you make that stuff like it used to be. A hell of a lot more common experience of beating top 4 teams at Simon Scott Assembly Hall. That's why people feared coming there. Well, that's coming back. That atmosphere last night, that's exactly what that did. You don't think it matters? Look what Indiana did to the number 4 team in the country without their All-American. It matters. It matters. Mike Woodson talked about beating Purdue. He's a man that knows about it, played for Indiana, and now he's the coach. Let's hear what he had to say.
Man, it's all about these guys, these 17 guys that wear the uniform. It's not about me. But, when anytime you can beat Purdue, and they feel the same about us, and it's been a while since we've beaten them. It's special, and hell, I didn't dribble one ball or make one shot, man. It was those guys that in that locker room that got it done. I couldn't be more proud of a team, boy. They played their hearts out tonight.
Nothing makes you happier if your coach is proud of you. Fred I was a little taken aback by Ivy's bad boy attitude for Purdue. If you're talking about that one play, I have no problem with that, man. You're in a high octane game on the road. That is it's a salty place to be. You're going to be salty. You're a team that's losing to a team that you're not supposed to lose to, that you don't want to lose to. It's your rival. You've beaten them 9 straight times. You don't want to be the team that loses. I understand. I don't have a problem with saltiness as long as it's within the confines of just being a competitor. And he was. So he was frustrated. Indiana frustrated him, man. What did he end up with? He still ended up with 21 points. But they still were able to frustrate him. He was only 2 of 6 behind the 3-point line. So, yeah, I've got no issue with that. How about the bench? 35-4 bench points, Indiana to Michigan. Outside of their starters, Caleb First scored a bucket. And their big man, Travion Williams, scored a bucket. That was the bulk of their production. Although, Hunter Jr. played 16 minutes. First played 11. Williams played 15 minutes, scored 2 points. That is great defense. Tony mentioned Meatloaf was in Fight Club, I assume that's what you're saying? Fight Club, yeah. I did not realize. I didn't watch that movie. Michigan's up next. Who is going to stop Hunter Dickinson? Who was going to stop Yao Ming? I think it's not about stopping the individual. It's more about how you attack their offense. I mean, it's partly how you play, obviously, Hunter Dickinson, but you also have to attack their offense. It's what Indiana did last night. And sometimes you do that with your own offense. You flip the script on them. And Indiana definitely flipped the script with the foul trouble on Trace Jackson Davis last night. Purdue was just not planning on that, and they damn sure didn't plan on Indiana having basically 2 point guards go off and kill them. But Indiana is faced. You're going to face a guy like this every game. You've got Kofi Cockburn. Every Big Ten team's got a guy. Now, some are better than others. You attack him just like you attacked whether it's Zach Edey. But the thing is, luckily, he's not nearly as huge as Zach Edey. So I would imagine that either Race or Trace Jackson Davis will have a little bit easier time not getting into so much foul trouble, although Hunter Dickinson is a better basketball player than Zach Edey. He's not as big. Zach Edey's not a great basketball player. He's not very good at all. He's just ginormous. If he was athletic, he'd be a badass. If he had some get after it, and I'm sure it's hard when you're that size of a human, but it is what it is. Dropping the truth bombs today, baby. Tim's talking about a quarterback about to commit, and I think is that the 22 kid from Texas. I haven't kept up on that this morning. Yeah, the new numbers are out. Indiana is currently 26th in the KenPom. I think they're 31 in the net. Getting better. March is in March. This is January. They don't hand out trophies in January, folks. They don't play tournaments in January. Keep getting better. Keep learning about yourself. Keep becoming a team. And that's what Mike Woodson has going, it looks like.
Break.
He got them doing what they need to do. Hey, Aaron Matus is going to join us next. Let's take a quick break so we can get him in here. Back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurants.
Whether it's a celebration. Hello.
Hey.
One.
How are you guys? That's right.
Man, I wish I'd have never signed up for those effing D1 ticker emails.
Hey, twice a day we're in your inbox with everything you need to know.
Twice my ass. It seems like twice an hour.
Well, we get breaking news.
It's great information. I'm not lying. It is.
It's
and
a
if
lot.
I was looking for a job in that field, holy crap, that's the Craigslist of sports, man.
Yeah, and that's the goal. It's supposed to be very niche.
I'm telling you, for someone who doesn't even need it barely even looks, I'm like going, damn. It is the Craigslist of sports.
And this new thing we're doing with Collegiate Sports Connect is the platform. It's great for people working in intercollegiate athletics. It's really cool. They're trying to get that going, but they were just all up at the NCAA convention this week, and I was supposed to be there, but here I am on health and safety protocols.
I need to get you up here I have someone I need to introduce you to.
All right. I'll be up.
When you coming?
I don't have plans to come up right now, although I want to come up for a game. I want to get my kids to a game. My middle daughter is 7, and just last night she asked, how come we haven't been to a game? So my oldest has been to one. I haven't had the other 2 yet, so I got to get them up there. I'd like them to see it.
Well, last night would have been a good time.
I can't do $500 a ticket though.
Holy crap!
Especially for a 7-year-old who's going to run around.
Go on that Hoosier Project thing where they give away donated tickets for free to people with first timers.
Yeah, I thought about doing that, but I also kind of want to let that. I don't know if I need to do that either. I just need to find a game that's got tickets available. You know what I mean?
Probably not a good look for a former sports director to be taking advantage of that.
Right. I'd rather it go to parents that actually can't get their kids to games. We'll get them there. I probably won't spend a lot on tickets until they actually want to sit and watch the game. But I think even a 7-year-old would have been caught up in the atmosphere last night.
Are you bringing one up or two?
I don't know what I'll do. I mean, I have no plans yet. The first time I came, I only brought my oldest because the other two were so young it wouldn't have mattered. But the youngest is getting into basketball now. He's only 5, but obviously I'd love to brainwash them as soon as possible.
15 seconds.
Yeah, the only thing I was successful at brainwashing my daughter was her dislike of Kentucky, our shared dislike of Kentucky.
Hey, that's
5
a
seconds.
win.
Here we go.
I said, you know what? I'll take it.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this beautiful Friday. And what a way to end it. Aaron Matus, formerly of WDW.com, now with D1 Ticker Connect. And man, you are way busier than you ever were before, I would imagine.
Yeah, it's been an interesting transition. This company, we I didn't have to move. That was one thing with D1 Ticker based out of Louisville. So that was really cool to land. But yeah, switching from the hyper-focused local scene of covering Louisville, Kentucky, and Indiana, obviously others, Western Kentucky, Bellarmine, the local high school scene, to this national approach has been interesting, but it's been a lot of fun. And hey, happy to have a job, Jim, right?
Well, but not only that, I mean, I know it probably was not what you wanted because we all do what we want to do, and you were doing that. But this is a unique thing. I mean, I get their emails all the time, which are lots, are many, but it has to do with jobs in collegiate sports, whether it's an SID, an AD, or all kinds of. It's amazing to see all this stuff. I'm like, wow, this is the Craigslist of college athletics, man.
Yeah, the best way to sum it up is it is niche media. We cover the business of college athletics. So to your everyday fan, probably not the news you normally consume. But if you are working in intercollegiate athletics, it is targeted directly at you. And Matt Roberts is the founder. He's done a terrific job building it. I'm just along for the ride at this point.
What's Matt's background?
Intercollegiate athletics. He played baseball at UNC Asheville. He started working in athletic departments. He was at Evansville for a bit, out in Florida for a little bit, and then he started this company about 8 or 9 years ago. And just the idea of being the best in the world at covering the inner workings of college athletics. So it's pretty cool. And I always say, in my past life, it was all about point guards and quarterbacks. And in this current life, it's all about ADs and presidents. So it's definitely a different approach, but it's fun.
And it's like, if you're looking if they put out job postings for presidents,
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. And ADs and the job board is huge. It's huge. That is a major part of what we do. And they got a new platform. We have a new platform called Collegiate Sports Connect. The job board is available there as well as content, and you can create a profile to get noticed. So yeah, if you're listening and you're wanting to get in, foot in the door in college athletics, it's a great spot to be.
Yeah, tons of, and obviously the job market in college athletics, even with all the stuff that has happened, exploded over the last 10 years. I don't know.
Yeah.
Has it doubled? Has it doubled in 10 years? The amount of people that actually work in sports media, because I look at the people that are at IU. You've got SIDs for every sport. There's so much, and not just that. There's so many other aspects of it. Marketing. There's just tons of things.
Yeah, the marketing part's huge. There does seem to be. You're right. And Matt again is the founder, has commented how the job board has just exploded and buoyed the whole company, really. And it doesn't seem, in my opinion, to be going anywhere. You talk about these creative teams that campuses have. Look at IU. I mean, the stuff that comes out of IU from that media school, and then from the athletic department is super impressive. So as that all continues to grow, you got to have human beings, right? So the job board isn't going anywhere in terms of volume.
Absolutely. Well, last night, something happened up in Bloomington, baby. I hate that you couldn't be there for it. Matt or Aaron is also an IU grad.
Yep.
Yeah, that was an electric environment. It was great to see the students celebrating afterwards. You know, I talked about it earlier. I'm not a rush to floor guy for schools like Indiana. You shouldn't need to do that. But I don't care about that one. Last time I give it to them, give it to the students. If there was a senior in that group, they hadn't beaten Purdue, let them do whatever the hell they want to do. I don't care. Let them have it. But get that one out of your system. Now get back to being where you need to be and just make it business at hand from here on out.
I couldn't agree more with that. I know going into the game, I was dreading it, just because recent history has conditioned me to dread the Purdue matchups. But I did have the thought in my head that, man, if Indiana wins it, I do hope that we don't rush the floor, just because I just know how it will be spun, and I could see how that could be almost a feather in the cap to Purdue and to Purdue fans. But I think I heard Jared Morris say it yesterday that if that is a feather in the cap to Purdue, great. They earned it. They've had our number. There's a lot that went into why the students rushed the court last night. And, I'm not going to fault them for it. I hope they had fun. There's been a lot of people waiting to see an atmosphere like that and waiting to not, there have been good atmospheres at Assembly Hall and powder kegs, so to speak, since 2016. We've been there for them, Jim, and then the team didn't deliver multiple times. The perfect case in point is the night Bob Knight returned. That place was ready and had no reason to celebrate throughout the game. And the difference this time was the momentum built a little longer because we had to wait, and then the team did deliver. And of course, it went right down to the wire. So, that was the last little thing. If Indiana pulls ahead by 5-6 and dribbles the clock out, that probably doesn't happen last night. But it went down to that final shot, which, by the way, hung on the rim a little longer than I wanted it to.
Almost went down.
I know. Can you imagine?
Almost went down.
A step back, bank in 3 to go to overtime. And I
didn't realize. I had no idea. I had to come home and rewatch the game because there's so much going on. Where I sit. That shot was down in front of me, but I did not have any clue how close that damn shot was to going in until I watched the replay. What I did know, though, was the shot before that was an absolute horrible shot by Jaden Ivey. It's like that baseline floater he threw up from 6 feet that just was like, what the hell were you doing?
Hats off to Trace Jackson Davis. Trace Jackson Davis,
Indiana.
He switched off of him, and all of a sudden Ivey had to get it over 6'10" Trace Jackson Davis, which Ivey hadn't had to do all game because Jackson Davis wasn't in the game, but he came in and he made an All-American play right there, switching on defense, and he made that shot awful tough on Ivey, and Ivey missed it horribly. And then Jackson Davis did what our team couldn't do, which was make 2 out of 2 free throws, which certainly clinched at least overtime, which we almost got, as we just mentioned. That shot thought about going in.
Well, not only that, we talked about this earlier, those free throws. If you would have told me that, first of all, that Trace Jackson Davis would play 11 minutes, score 4 points, Indiana would get 24 free throws, but only hit 58%, and that would be the winning margin, I'm like, you're off your rocker. That was the winning margin because Purdue hit 1 more field goal. They hit 2 more threes, one of which was they were 25 of 54 overall. Indiana was 24 of 56 overall. The free throw line, baby, 7 of 17 versus 14 of 24. I guarantee if this was in Mackey, those numbers are probably reversed, but it doesn't matter. It wasn't. And Indiana did what they needed to do in a very, very unbelievable way.
Yeah, and Hey, listen, there are things to be concerned about. The free throw shooting, I thought, Painter almost got that done with a couple of out-of-bounds plays there in the second half. I think they had 3 layups off out-of-bounds plays. So certainly there's things to be concerned about. Purdue fans probably at home today saying, man, we missed 10 free throws. That could have been the difference. Well, both teams were terrible at the line. And, Indiana can say, well, man, what if Trace Jackson Davis could have played his normal minutes? And Purdue fans can say, when are they going to get 20 points from Rob Phinisee again? The bottom line is a lot went into that game. It was a crazy atmosphere. Crazy things happened. IU earned the victory. I don't think anybody can debate that over last night. So crazy game. Yeah, if you could wipe out the scoring on the box score and just look at what happened, if you could just show me that blindly, I'd say, well, Purdue won that game.
Oh, easily, all day long. It's nuts. But they didn't. And now they're 14-4, and they're in front of Purdue in the Big Ten. And had Purdue not beaten Illinois the other night in overtime, the best team in the Big Ten, and I still say that the Purdue is, I don't know, them or Wisconsin, but the best team in the Big Ten could possibly be in 8th place in the conference?
Yeah. They got that win. Hey, Purdue's a great team. There's no doubt about that.
Oh, they're going to do fine.
Yeah, the fact that they went 1-1 in that tough stretch at Illinois, at Indiana, end of the year, they probably take that. I'm just glad the 1-1 went the way it did.
Yeah, IU 5-3 now, Purdue 4-3 in the conference play. So Jared says Wisconsin has a really favorable schedule ahead. Indiana doesn't have a bad schedule. They've got Michigan at home. They don't have to travel there. So
Indiana's got an opportunity to go on a bit of a run right now, especially now that they got this win over Purdue. There's quite a few games coming up that they should win. They'll be favored in. And that they have a chance to do what Indiana has not done since 2016, which is stack wins. We haven't seen it happen.
Not just stack wins. These are potentially, I've talked about this, 3 unbelievably important wins. All right, they beat Nebraska, which is not in and of itself an important win, but it was because they were 0-8 on the road.
Correct.
So they snapped that streak. The very next game, they snapped the 0-9 streak against Purdue. Their next game's against Michigan, who they are currently 0-8 against for their last 8. Yeah. If you snap those 3 streaks in successive games, you have just catapulted yourself into the national conversation, of which Indiana has not been a part of for 5 years.
Yes. Yeah.
Now they are back in the national conversation of being a legitimate top 25 team.
I think if they beat Michigan, obviously it depends on what others do that are currently ranked. But if they beat Michigan Sunday, wouldn't surprise me to see them with a number next to their name come Monday next week, which is great. I mean, it's great because I think it's important to the fan base. I still kind of agree with the human polls don't exactly matter, and we're growing in the metric. We're rising in the metric statistics that count. Ken Palm, et cetera, net. So that's terrific news. And after the Michigan game, there's winnable games. There are winnable games there, and some of that's going to require traveling and winning on the road, which has been a bugaboo. And I think we'd all be naive to think that everything has been solved just because Jaden Ivey's shot last night fell off the rim as opposed to falling in the rim. So there's going to be issues still. There's absolutely going to be issues. Could they drop a game that they're favored in? Yeah, it's probably going to happen. We've seen enough of this team to know that there's struggles, but you can't take the win away from last night. And I think we all agree that win is going to look good on the resume for the rest of this season.
Yep, looking forward to it, man. It has been a blast. That was just like I said yesterday. I sent out a text. I said, hey, as a reporter, I'm just excited going to this game because I knew it's going to be fun. And it was in every way. And today has been just as fun. I can't thank you enough for being a part of it. And congratulations on the gig, man. I'm keeping up with you. and we'll continue to do so. We'll keep having you on. We can do some more, but man, it was fun. It's always fun. It's a lot more fun for me when I'm covering a winner. Trust me.
And the energy's there. Yeah, I hear you. That was great. And I think it's inevitable to see a little bit of an emotional letdown come Sunday now. But let's see if they can kind of overcome that and get a win that they're going to be favored in that game. So be interesting to see how it goes.
I cannot wait, man. Looking forward to it. I thank you guys. Jordan, I cannot thank you enough. Thank everybody out there. Thank all of you guys. Thanks for catching us last night with Ted Kitchell and Dean Garrett. Again, thanks to those guys. Great night last night. Thanks to Alec Lasley from thehoosier.com. And make sure you go there for complete coverage on the Indiana Hoosiers. Zach Osterman from the Indy Star. Thank him as well. And our good friend Aaron Matus from D1 Ticker. It's been another fun one, man. We're back to do this on, I guess, Sunday. I'll be here after the game for you as Indiana will take on Michigan. Brother, you got to get up soon.
I'll be up soon. I got to get out of this health and safety protocol first, and then I'll be up in Bloomington soon.
How much longer do you have?
I'm hoping to test negative today.
Good luck, brother. We're with you. Hey, thanks a lot to everybody else. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate you guys. A great audience today. You guys are the absolute best. I will see you on Sunday. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.